Dean Razorback 10K. If knife play is your kink, this guitar is for you. This guitar sucks. It stabs you every time you try to play it. The tremolo system is awful. It looks like Silver the Hedgehog after being flattened by a semi, is about as annoying to play as Sonic 06, and reminds everyone of why they don't take Dean seriously as a guitar brand anymore. So yeah, the Dean Razorback and Razorback V were designed by the late Dimebag Darrell, guitar player for Pantera. They were going to be his new signature models. However, Dimebag's life was tragically ended before he had the chance to play his new guitars. But Dean decided to roll out the new models post-mortem, so fans of Dimebag and Dean guitars had the chance to play them. It's super tragic that Dimebag is no longer with us today, as he is a top 5 guitarist for so many people, including myself, and he's inspired so many people to pick up guitar and play their asses off. But man, if Dimebag's life wasn't taken away by that Nathan Gale, he still could have died on stage from playing one of these damn things, because these guitars are deadly and sharp as hell. The top horn has the potential to disembowel a fully grown elephant. The Dean Razorback is so dangerous that you would have to legally register it as a weapon in the state of Illinois and would be banned within the city limits of Chicago. It's very sharp and inconveniently placed when sitting down and playing it over your right thigh because it'll stab you in the chest. Then when you try to play it in the classical position, the protruding bottom point will stab you in the calf. You risk indirectly committing seppuku every time you pick up this guitar. A Dean Razorback 10K has about as many bad points as a bread tuber on Twitch talking politics. The appearance of this guitar has as little self-awareness as a red pill influencer roid raging to his phone camera in the driver's seat of his truck that he spent $40,000 over sticker price on, complaining about the emotional fragility of men in today's society. A Dean Razorback is one face tattoo away from landing another 10 years in prison for aggravated assault and breaking parole. It's a history time! In 2008, Dean released the Razorback 10K as a special edition guitar to commemorate 10,000 sales of the Razorback model since it debuted in 2004. While it's not certain, some say about 100 copies of these Razorback 10Ks were made, others say more. I mean, as someone who owns this thing, I hope they made way less, because apparently these things are still worth about $1 to $2 grand right now, thanks in part to the lawsuits Dean has been facing recently, which has been driving up used prices of their guitars. Uh-oh, there goes my investment! If you were to buy one of these guitars brand new in 2008, you would have spent $1,889, or a whopping $3,140 and counting adjusted for inflation today. Keep in mind that this was 2008, during a recession and the housing crisis. So what do you get for spending $3 grand on a non-American made Dean? You get plastic diamond plating that's screwed on to the body, a 12th fret inlay resembling a device used to make lines out of illegal nose substances, these weird tone knobs that are ribbed for nobody's pleasure, chrome pickup plating, a headstock with a giant dime logo, and a 10K truss rod emblem cover, a rosewood fretboard, Grover tuners, a Seymour Duncan dimebucker in the bridge, which we'll talk about later, and a licensed Floyd Rose whammy bar system that's nothing but a chrome-plated piece of shit. I'm sorry, but this tremolo system is whack. While it does an okay job of staying in tune, the stupid bar itself keeps getting loose after repeated usage. There's this nut attached to the tremolo bar underneath the guitar in the back cavity, and even when you tighten it down, it keeps getting loose. So you may as well leave the back plate off of this thing just so you can keep dicking around with the nut and keep it tightened. If you have extra money lying around, I'd recommend swapping this whammy bar out for a real Floyd Rose, because this thing is a joke. After all, the point of this guitar is to do whammy bar abuse, and it fails to achieve its main purpose. Now, I do have the self-awareness to say that this guitar looks absolutely ridiculous on me. If you're not going to the gym or don't weigh in at least 250 pounds, then you probably have no business playing a Dean Razorback. It's like one of those roller coaster rides where if you don't meet the height or weight requirements, well,
get f***ing bent!
The burlier you are, the better it looks. So make sure you have some noticeable amount of Neanderthal DNA before wielding this literal axe. Alright, enough of this senseless diatribe. How does this guitar actually play? I will say, this guitar does sound killer. That dimebucker pickup in the bridge sounds beefy and heavy, and sounds great for doing metal rhythms and chugs. Not to mention, clean tones through these pickups are actually quite good too. The neck profile is also rather slim, especially compared to a Dean ML, which is kind of like playing a baseball bat with strings. The downside, though, is I'm not the biggest fan of playing leads on this thing. Although the tone is really good, it just feels like work trying to do runs up and down the fretboard. And this guitar is relatively set up well with low action, too. It just doesn't help getting eviscerated every time I try to play this damn thing. The Dean Razorback 10K truly is the ultimate masochist's guitar. And like the masochist with Stockholm Syndrome that I am, I keep coming back to this Razorback and falling in love with it again. I know this thing looks cheesy, but come on, this guitar is f***ing awesome. It's basically the guitar equivalent of a Hummer H1.
Ooh, yeah, brother! You'll be guaranteed to gain at least 30% more testosterone if you play a Dean Razorback. Because every time the horn stabs you, it injects 6 gallons of steroids into your bloodstream. Ooh, forget your nitty little fan-fret soy guitars like Strandberg or whatever that neck-tattooed babyface Tim Henson plays. If you're taking HRT, this guaranteed will reverse any progress on your transition. It's like the opposite of touching receipt paper, brother. Ooh, you'll grow a hulkingly large member that'll gain sentience, like that Russian guy at Herogasm from The Boys. Oh yeah, I'm about to have a stroke, brother.
Warning, if you are epileptic and sensitive to bright lights, and also not a fan of terrible pseudo-intellectual takes, please leave the video now. Thank you. I'm gonna get pedantic here, but the strangest thing I find with the Dean Razorback is, out of all the signature guitars that have ever existed, it's like the one guitar where the person who it was built for never played any of their signature models. And yes, of course Dimebag would have played these guitars had he not died back in 2004. But I'm led to wonder, because Dimebag never played these guitars, can we truly consider them to be signature models? Obviously we could say yes, because we do know that Dimebag would have played these guitars if he were still alive today. But if not, then these guitars represent a reality that has had no basis or foundation to begin with. Take Dimebag's Dean from Hell, for example. you can play a copy of that guitar, and it's basically a replica of the exact one that Dimebag actually played. It's essentially a simulation of playing a Dimebag Darrell guitar. But there is no equivalent Razorback guitar that Dimebag actually played because he never played a Dean Razorback. These guitars aren't creating a simulation of playing a Dimebag Darrell guitar, but rather a simulacrum. So take all your Pantera tribute bands, for example. While they're trying to simulate the experience of seeing Pantera live, if those guys are playing a Dean from Hell, for example, they're simulating the aesthetics of Dimebag Darrell by playing a guitar he actually used. Now, if they're using a Razorback, it becomes a simulacrum because now they're trying to represent Dimebag Darrell live in a reality that never existed, because they're playing a guitar he never actually played. A Razorback is basically a Dimebag guitar from a different dimension, except it exists within this dimension. But disregarding this nonsense I've tried bestowing upon you, if you see someone playing a Dean Razorback outside of the context of a Pantera tribute band or a Pantera song or whatever, everyone's gonna think you're just an imitator. There's absolutely no escaping the association that these guitars have from their origin point. And that's a point I'm gonna touch on more in the next video I make. Now, should you go out and buy one of these Dean Razorbacks, specifically this 10K model? My gut reaction would be absolutely not. But the thing with Dean is, they are to guitars what Dodge is to automobiles. They both have models that have rather aggressive designs, and they come in really bright colors and kind of vibrant paint schemes. And you can only really locate these specific things within these brands, and they seem to attract a specific type of person as well. And like how some people's dream car is to get a Dodge Challenger SRT8 or a Hellcat or a Demon, some people's dream guitar happens to be a Dean Razorback 10K. And boy, I'll be damned to hell if I ain't attracted to a Dean guitar, let me tell you what. So to answer your question, should you get a Dean Razorback 10K? Well, if you don't mind all of the unnecessary attention it'll give you, the Pantera connotations, and are willing to shell out a few shekels for one of these, go right ahead. After all, it's a guitar we would have dreamed of playing when we were kids anyway.
Ooh, yeah!